This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about what's wrong with there is no such thing as society, Margaret Thatcher. Can you imagine human culture as an individualistic enterprise, as part of individuals that only care about themselves and do not that where literally there is no such thing as society. That's exactly the opposite. That there is nothing that individuals achieve that doesn't happen. It's due to society, the existence of society. There would not be even culture as the type of culture that we know if if our species was not profoundly social. The culture as we know it is the result of our species being profoundly social. So as we, even families, it is possible a family, you can understand family as the unit, as many people do. They do not, especially the conservative side, they tend to be more focused on the unit, the family unit, and instead of understanding the family, the individual, and the family as being part of the community, because we need the broader community to survive. Even in that we all know that we can inbreeding, it just is not healthy for the survival of the species. So therefore, even as part of the biological process of survival, we need a community. We need a broader community, and the examples of how the human species evolved is based on communities. Not the unit, the family unit is because there are so many forms of families, from family units that can be formed. That's not because we are used to the informal, the traditional way to form family units, and we have the legal basis, for how to. Marriage is a contract, by the way, and then we have the inheritance rights and everything that has been built legally and morally in order to make us feel that that's almost the only way to organize a family and organize society and being civilized. What is wrong with that? First, just imagine small communities with families competing with each other for the control of land resources and to try to grab power and control wealth. I mean, for the most part of our lives as a human species as we know it, we didn't. There was no concept of private property. For God's sake, what's difficult to understand it? Individually, people would build their own bows and arrows. And they would decorate them with their own creative imagination. So there was kind of this individualistic enterprise, let's put it this way. But there was not. But this sense, it isn't of a personal object. It's not the same thing as the perception of things, of property rights, of legal property rights over something that you have to buy. You have to use a token to acquire it, or you have to control the resources in order to control them and control other people's lives in order to allow them to use them. This is nothing. This is private. This is just a distortion of reality. That's now this is based on deception, and there are many. I mean, this is exactly what is wrong with the modern culture, the imperialistic paradigm of civilization, because this was based on the idea that society can only be organized with few people on the top controlling the rest of society, because it's only through violence and through dogmatic control. There are dogmas that are supposed to be followed, belief systems and legal systems, and hierarchical societal system that needs to be imposed top down, because there is no other way to organize it, and this needs to be controlled in infrastructure, with the infrastructure that is controlled privately. This is what's wrong. No, there is no such thing as society. It's exactly the opposite. There is no human being, or there is no culture without society. So it's not because when Margaret Thatcher wanted, what she was trying to say is that there were people taking advantage of the system, of a welfare system, and that nobody denies that is true, that the welfare system can become it's not a welfare system is not to be used by people in order that they do not ever, because if we want, and we should emphasize the need of a reciprocity economy, okay, and the reciprocity economy is based on all of us to have a fair share, to give and receive, to produce and consume. And what this means is that we cannot have a welfare state. In my welfare state, I believe that we need universal basic services that are provided by the state, and the state needs to be controlled democratically, which is, we need a real democracy, not this managed democracy that we have, that is for the benefit of the wealthy, of the ones on the top, because they are the ones that already have the means, the wealth, the power to control the institutions directly or indirectly, by legal means or illegal means. And then the rest of us, or at least the most of us, just have to obey, are supposed to obey, to comply, to serve. And that's the value of our lives is not much more than that. And if you want to have normal life, let's put it this way, you know, the point is, human societies are not are a need. It is not something that we built. It's not a whim. It is not something superfluous. And they were complex language systems, learning how to build tools, learning survival skills. This is the ability to mimic each other and to learn through mimicry, and all the rest that is that's part of the human culture is social. It depends on it. It depends and is stimulated by our social condition. And this is why we need functional societies. And with functional societies, it's not about collectivism or individualism. Okay? It's not this division that we need. We need always this is exactly the opposite of a functional society. We cannot believe that society doesn't exist, or society exists but only in a collectivist form. That is wrong to assume that we cannot start to understand that we are a social species. And we need a society, a functional society, to survive, for our well-being, for our sanity, for our physical well-being, material well-being, and for our mental sanity. Otherwise, if we have dysfunctional societies such those that we have, we might not be able to recognize it or live in denial and survive through cognitive dissonance strategies that sometimes we don't even understand why we do it. But the point is that this kind of society is deeply dysfunctional because it's not serving the purpose of what a society should serve for a species that is deeply social and needs those and depends on social bonds to survive, and social relations that are creative, the social relations that are that fulfill our needs, instead of making of being of only about demanding things from each other, imposing and wanting to be served and feeling entitled to this and to that. That's not what the society is about. That is why the values, the rules, the norms, the principles that need to be structural in cultural terms, they need to be part of a wider system. Society is a wider system, and there is a political system and economic system, and there is a civilizational model. And we need to understand this all as a system of systems, as the example of our own bodies as living organisms. We have this is an idea that is with me for a long time. We have different systems, circular system, respiratory system, digestive system, lymphatic system, circulatory system, so, and we have a web, a nervous web, and all these systems, including the nervous systems, of course, and the brain and everything, there is no supremacy. All these systems that compose our body, our living organism, is just for the purpose. The purpose is to keep the organism alive and well, to keep the homeostasis in levels that are conform with life. And this is the same. A civilization and a society needs to be understood as a system of systems that they all need to be structured and interconnected in a way that serves the purpose of the well-being of the society, of a functional society. Because if we believe that certain groups in society or certain systems or subsystems of the society are more important than others, and therefore certain groups or certain individuals or families deserve to control more, to accumulate more reserves than they need, they are starving other parts of the living organism that is the human societies, and they are creating a dysfunctional system that has to be then treated artificially through coercive means in order to keep the order that should be functional and preserving energy. And for the well-being of the organism, it is the opposite. What we do is that then we need measures, we need a legal system, we need a military force, law enforcement, in order to make the system, to keep the system starving certain parts of it, in order to make others becoming like a cancer. If you imagine that the billionaires, and I think everybody knows what a billionaire is. A billionaire, if you have only $1 billion, for example, you have 1 million of million. Okay, you have $1 million dollars, which means that if you compare to the average person, there is no. I mean, you should look at. We should perceive it as a cancer, and that is a cancer that tends to grow and tends to metastasize and to spread all over. And it is this is our reality. This is the reality of a dysfunctional system that was supposed to be a society, a functional society, but it is not. Even for the people that now look at the Chinese example and believe that the Chinese example is the graal to go, is the role model to follow, I believe they are wrong. Not because I believe that's everything wrong about the Chinese system, but that it is not the kind of society that human beings should praise or should believe it's the future of humanity. Because it might look very clean and very sophisticated, very technological, and taking hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, and so on and so forth, which is true, which is important, but nevertheless, if we go to the core, if you want to understand the roots, we still, what is there, unless there will be a change, it is not what I could call or label as a good society, as a good ecological society, not the model for the future of civilization, for an ecological holistic civilization, which I think should be the aim of all of us. Most of our questions, analysis, critical analysis, and hypotheses and theories reflect the existing patterns of thought and reasoning. I mean, they do not. They come. Because the roots of our the dominant narratives and provide the infrastructure, the cognitive and intellectual of infrastructure that where our thoughts and analyses are formed. The values, the tools, the cognitive tools, the intellectual tools, the values, the principles, the rules, the norms that we use just makes us reproduce ideas that are not really innovative, that are not really revolutionary, because they do not in order to question, when we want to question a certain order, we already need to be conscious of what that order really entangles. I mean, what does it what the order is about? That in order to have the question, we need to be in rupture. You need to be not. We need to be able to cut the chains that keep us chained to the roots of the problem, to the causes of the problem. Otherwise, we just keep ourselves. We are just in the ideological and intellectual maze that we most of the time are confused, or we believe that we have clear ideas, but actually they do not come from the understanding of the deep roots of the problems. Actually, sometimes they are built from them. They are receiving, there are so many thoughts, hypotheses, theories, and that are supposed to be solutions, and they do reproduce the ideas and norms and rules and principles and values that are part of the core of the problem, of the problems that we have as that our societies suffer from, and that gives us identity. This is exactly because it is the problem is that we do not have any incentive whatsoever to go deep enough to understand the layers of deception, to understand the web of deception, that it doesn't have. It goes from the left to the right in the political spectrum, and from top down. I mean, it is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. Therefore, and it is not easy. It requires a sustained process, conscious process of screening and develop our analytical skills, critical skills, that without training we are not able to get anywhere, because we get somehow entangled in the middle, in the cacophony, in the sound bites, and there is no such thing as intuition is not enough to free us. It doesn't mean that common sense and intuition is not important to help us. There are gut feelings that do give us a hint, good hints, but that requires work and training, research, not just easy solutions, not commodified solutions. And the solutions that we find everywhere, how the problems are framed, and consequently how the solutions are not real solutions, because they do not challenge the deep structure this paradigm of imperialist civilization and our dysfunctional societal systems. Therefore, we cannot see. We just are kept in a kind of loop, and I mean, cognitive, intellectual, cultural loop. Because which is normal, because it is difficult to keep going on with our business, to keep going on with our daily tasks, to work, schedules, responsibilities, duties, family care, careers, and at the same time have a deep reflection with the purpose of putting exactly this order into perspective, to challenge it. Of course, you can go mad, you can get depressed, but also you can also have a sense of freedom that you will never forget. Then you start to see, and you want that to stay with you. You want to keep going on, because you start to see, to feel that you are in the right path for your freedom, the right path to understand who you are, and what it means to be alive, and what it means to be part of society, and what society should look like. Because you just wake up for the understanding of the kind of dissociative, cognitive forms of, organizing a society with all these divisions, all that, of course, they have only one purpose: to help and serve the interests of the people on the top. That's tools for control. That's not tools for well-being. That's not tools to the survival of humanity. That's not tools to the survival of civilization. Human civilization is tools to the survival of a specific form, dysfunctional form, dystopian form of civilization that most of us, are not able to grasp. Not because we are stupid, I like to emphasize it. It's because we are being manipulated to see, to look in the wrong places. Look there. That's why distraction is important. That's why confusion is required. That's why, tribalization and all the tools they use to keep us divided. And this is what we are, the reality that we are confronted with, and that reality can only be deconstructed. It can only be broken down, and that we can see it as it is through conscious transformative process. It cannot be done by receiving, just some sort of orientation by others. I always say that the relevance of a shared knowledge and shared experiences, but we ourselves, we need to be to engage in a process of transformation that is of our responsibility. Otherwise, as I do not remember who said it, that people go mad in crowds, and they recover their sanity one by one. And I do believe this is true, and we need to recover sanity in bigger numbers. Of course, it has to be one by one, but we can help each other for sure. That's why we are a social species. But we need to be open. Otherwise, we do not. And by openness, I mean being open is not being open to anything. All right, is being open to challenge the deep structure, the deep cognitive intellectual structure that keeps us unable to see through the propaganda, to see through the web of deceit. That's exactly what I mean being open. Being open, it doesn't mean that you should be or I should be open to listen to, whatever others want to keep you occupied with, okay? There are lots of things that do not deserve to be, that we pay attention to it. And by the way, all of us need to understand that it is important to be aware to what we expose ourselves and do not waste our time, because time is life. Where you use your time, that's what you will have the result that is as consequences, just like ideas. When you expose yourself to whatever ideas, they have consequences. So by being open, primarily, what I mean is that we need to be open to challenge our own beliefs, to challenge our own certainties, and to discuss it, but not in a chaotic and when you sit down with other people, you need to know what are the points that you are going to discuss. You just I really love spontaneity, but even spontaneity needs to be, to a certain extent, based on something. What is not just three thoughts. There are no such thing as three thoughts. Okay, thoughts come always from somewhere. They are based in something. They are relational. That's the point. That's something that we all need to understand. Things do not pop up from a vacuum. They pop up in relation to something else. That's life. Life is relational. We have been living under the spell of there is no alternative and there is no such thing as society. And people like Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, they were not the ones that provided the intellectual framework to do the changes that have been implemented in society and the economic system, the political economy, and the monetary policy and macroeconomic policy that just gave us the 2007-2009 crisis that has never been solved, and that is the frame that is again the ideological and cultural frame that is still the dominant, and that doesn't allow us to. We talk a lot about neoliberalism and that we need, but most of us still not be able, exactly because the point is, if we do not go able to challenge it intellectually at the deep level, that it is controlling our mental lives. Because as I always try to explain, that it's not about that we understand something intellectually. It is easy to do so, or at least it's not that difficult to understand the pros and cons of a certain system or a certain ideology or theory or whatever. What it is really hard to do, because it requires a conscious process of transformative process, it is to go deep into us and understand how we are controlled by these lines of thought, these narratives, how we perceive ourselves, our relations, and the world, how deep they are part of this process. And therefore, you can understand it intellectually, but it doesn't change who you are, how you behave, and it doesn't make you aiming to change, because your mind is still operating within the boundaries of there is no alternative, and there is no such thing as society. Public is bad, private is good. It is, and this is part of our culture. This is not something that we touch with our fingers. This exists as part of our living organism and controls our thoughts, our analysis, how we perceive the reality. This is the same of what happens with religious fundamentalism and dogmas that we do not dare to challenge. And why we do not dare to challenge? We do not dare to challenge because they are deeply ingrained in our mental lives, in our subconscious. And therefore they have the upper hand in they control how we perceive ourselves. They dictate our behaviors. They influence our habits. How we establish relationships with other human beings, with nature, with everything. And this is why only a conscious transformative process that is the only tool, cognitive, and by the way, cognitive and affective tools that we need to use in order to break down and in order to allow a different set of values, of ideas to flourish and to establish themselves as dominant. But it's of our choice, not by being imposed by anyone, not by being just because we follow some sort of authority, some sort of hero, of leader, cultural leader, political leader, spiritual leader. No, it's just because you do it yourself as part of a web, not a web of deceit, but a web of conscious transformation that we can be built for a conscious transformation, for a ecological, for a political, social and ecological political economy, a society, the reciprocity of economy, sufficiency and reciprocity economy, for a well-being society, not a well-being economy, a society of well-being. The economy should be reciprocity and sufficiency, political economy, and for sure a civilization, ecological, holistic civilization. Because this is the result. This is not what should be imposed on us by authorities. That should be part of our conscious transformational process that we ourselves understand in the web, that our life, our culture is part of the web of nature, and how we need a culture, how we need values, norms, principles, rules and laws that do really to build a system that do implements this relation. Not a relation of separation, but a relation of complementary, of interdependence, of the notion that we need cooperation, that we are not here about control. Whatever philosophy, theology, or any kind of system that spreads the idea of top-down control and accumulation of wealth on the hands of a few and power grab is telling us lies, is part of the web of deceit to transform us into slaves, to transform us into tools, not to free us. Forget about this kind of freedom. This is just part of using us as useful idiots, cannon fodder when it's necessary, and disposable peons, and to keep us entertained, and not only with distractions, but also with worries. Because we have this system built on the manufactured scarcity. Where everything is supposed to be controlled by private property laws. And most of us do not even dare to think that private property is not a natural law or a natural right, and that might not have been how we developed as a species, how the human communities developed. It has been by a process of usurpation by people that were able, and that is a flaw on our human ability, because again, I like to emphasize this, we are able, We follow logic, not reason. And anytime a group of men or even a single individual can make us believe, then can make us follow them based on a web of deceit that is to control us and to use us for their own control, for their own megalomaniac projects. And unfortunately, this is the flaw, this is the main flaw of the human species. There is nothing to do with something wrong with our condition. This is a flaw. And this is why we fall again and again in believing the wrong people, the wrong ideas, because we lack the training of conscious transformative process that really makes us able to have a deep and comprehensive analysis instead of following the ones that just want to use us. So this is how I'm going to stop now. Thanks for listening, and I will be back soon.